Yep, we go to get back in the car and wow, car will not start. It's just horrible winding, grinding sound. And I knew immediately it was the starter. Yeah, this is basically a brand new starter, but somebody didn't put it on right. Last time I had a starter put on, I went from the GM, the big, heavy 40-pound GM starter, to this little mini torque starter, and the guy didn't shim it right, so it prematurely burned up all of the. I don't know if you can see it right there, but burn that pinion up. I'm lucky it didn't burn up my ring gear or flex plate teeth. So I decided what I would do after getting the car towed home and being embarrassed. I decided to go with this. I'm not sponsored by these guys, but I went with this thing. The reason why I went with it is because it's made in the USA, not like that Chinese one that somebody put on for me years ago. Not even years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. Anyway, these guys don't sponsor me, but if you got to get yourself a mini torque starter for your Cadillac or any GM, really, this is the way to go. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, this task of replacing the starter is about a 2.5 to 3. Basic hand tools that are going to allow you to remove 2 bolts and do some basic wiring. This usually takes about a half an hour. All right, and you may have to use the shims. I would recommend not using the shims at first, but then if the starter doesn't engage properly, you may have to use the shims. This particular starter comes with instructions on how to check the tolerances and the clearances from the starter pinion gear to your flex plate or flywheel teeth. In this video, you saw that I had changed the starter. Well, I had another issue. It allowed me to think a little bit more about why the previous starter failed, and it looks like it's possibly heat soak. I noticed that when I was installing this new starter that the old starter was a Chinese starter. It was a slightly different configuration of this, but as I'm buying this one, I've noticed that when I installed it, the exhaust manifold heat riser, or I should say the exhaust pipe collector, or the connector that connects to the manifold outlet, is actually making contact with the top of the Bendix, which in turn transfers all that heat, well, not all of it, but a lot of it, into the starter. And that, as we all know, kills starters. So it killed the previous starter. And what I wanted to do is to prevent that. So while I was under the car, I removed the starter, and I'm going to revisit what this starter is all about. This starter is also touching the manifold right here, and that's going to foul this very important part of the starter. But as you know, there's some holes here which allow you to slightly adjust the base. That's one thing you can do if you have a situation like mine where you're in contact with it, or in close proximity to a very high heat source that you think is going to foul the starter. You can adjust this and swing it over, and what I'm going to do is get this Bendix from touching around, and that allows you to spin the starter away from any potential issues or clearance issues or heat soak issues. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one over 1 notch because I want to get it on the base orientated as far that way as I can, because the collector for my exhaust is right here, so I'm going to get it over. Now, there's another thing that you can do. You you can mount it upside down. So I'm also going to look at that as a possibility to see if there's any clearance issues over there. I might mount it so that the Bendix is under it. And then, of course, there's the third option, and that third option is using this product. I am not sponsored by the PowerMaster PowerMax Plus starter company. I'm not. I bought that myself. I'm also not sponsored by DEI, Heat, Sound, and Control. I installed this new starter, and when I installed it, I noticed that a lot of manufacturers of these things have a slightly different setup. They're slightly different angles from where the Bendix is and versus where the pinion is, and so the dimensions of them can be slightly different. In this case, this is located about a 1/4 inch higher than the previous one that I took off. Subsequently, that means it's actually making physical contact with the coupling of the exhaust manifold and the exhaust pipe. Technically, it's actually making contact with the heat riser counterweight on my Cadillac. And I'll find a picture here of what I'm talking about here. The heat riser counterweight actually touches this. So there is some heat transfer directly into this. And so I want to prevent heat soak. So that's what I think killed the last starter. I've been using these things for various applications on different things. I won't go into it, but on this application, as you can see by the photograph on the cover of the packaging, it is specifically for the mini starters, and it protects it from heat soak and failure. I'm going to wrap it, and I'm going to use the stainless steel zip ties to tie the wrap onto it. All right, let's do this. Okay, depending on your application, it may be easier to just wrap and strap the starter after you've installed it in the car. But in my application, it's much easier to just go ahead and wrap and strap it here on the workbench and then install it, because technically all I've got to do is just put simple wire connections there, one there, and then this little plug over here, and that's it. So, and by the way, I had to explore all three options. I did spin the base one to its farthest setting, and that was enough to get me clearance. Be honest with you, it was actually perfect. However, option number 2 was to wrap it, which I did. And then option number 3 was I'm going to install the starter upside down from the orientation that I previously had it. And so now the manifold coupling that goes into my heat riser on the Cadillac won't even be close to the Bendix. So I'm a happy guy, and I'm going to go and put it on right now.